It's time for the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast, a podcast so good it doesn't need a name. So without any further ado, here's your host, JD. Take it away, Johnny.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 23 of the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast. I'm your host, JD, aka Galactic, and in today's episode, we'll be talking about Ranked Season 1. Yep, Ranked Season 1 has been out for a week, and impressions are starting to fly in, bugs and exploits are starting to fly in too, so we'll discuss all of that in the first segment of the show, and then the second segment will be what I'm sure all of you are waiting for, and that is the Galactic Starfighter NDA, which has been lifted, and it is now on the public test. So I've been testing that since the first week of the closed beta. So I've seen pretty much everything that they've put out to the public, and I will be going into all the tips, tricks, and secrets that I've found out from that time playing. So, without any further ado, let's force leap right in.
Red 2, I've got a topic coming in hot requesting clearance to engage.
Lock S foils and attack positions. You are cleared to discuss.
So Ranked Season 1 has come out, and a lot of people have played it. I have heard a lot of good things about queue times. Queue times have definitely improved from people I've spoken to. I haven't personally done Ranked yet myself because I don't have a Ranked level character yet. I'm still working my character back into the PvP scene since I've started doing it again. Extra Life really kicked me back into PvP high gear, so I'm getting my shadow geared up. Working on getting a couple of Oberon pieces before I even think about getting into a ranked team. But overall, a lot of interesting discussions have broken out from the launch of Ranked Season 1, not least of which is the discussion of balance, which will probably be the meat of this topic, but I'll save that for the end. There's also been big problems with exploits. And when we're talking about exploits here, I think it's important, just like with Bolster, to realize that just because the system isn't working now doesn't mean that it's a bad system. It's an awesome system. The ranked leaderboards are really, really cool. It's slick. They may not be done exactly how I would like to see them done, but that could always change. And like I said, if it's broken now, it doesn't mean it will be broken forever, and it doesn't mean it's a bad system. And if they just tweak one or two things, the ranked leaderboards will be awesome. And they just have to fix the couple exploits that exist, and then I think those will be awesome too. The problems I have with the leaderboards, and I have them right here, so I'm just going to take a look and jog my memory. If we're looking at the ranked leaderboards, the fact that it isn't broken down by server has been brought out as probably the biggest problem most people have with the leaderboards, and I tend to agree with them. I think there is a place for global leaderboards, but I think it's more important to have it broken down by your server. This game, since launch, has been all about server and community, and they've talked about they don't want cross-server queues because they want to maintain that sense of community on your server. They want to maintain that sense of rivalry between the two factions on your server. So I don't understand why they wouldn't break down their leaderboards to kind of spur on that competition between servers, because that's really what they've said. That was been their company line since the beginning of the game, so why not really enforce it and break down your leaderboards by server? It also obviously has the unfair advantage of if you're a big fish in a small pond, you're going to be the alpha predator, so it's going to be hard to knock you out of the leaderboards. But also on the same accord, if you are the big fish in a small pond, you can only get so high in a rating before your rating isn't increasing anymore because you're playing such lower level players and such lower rating players. So there's definitely a give and take there, but I don't understand why they just don't do both. There's room for both. I think there are players who care about both, and I think that's something they've said they see that problem. They understand that problem, and they know that this isn't perfect. And I think they understand that with a lot of things that they put out there, that they're willing to go not 100% perfect, but playable enough that players can use it effectively. And I think that's what they're doing here. I think that's what they've done with the ranked system in general. They've released it I'd say at like 90%. And they just need to go that extra 10% to really hammer home the points that really matter. So, overall, I think Ranked Season 1 is going well. There's obviously the exploits of players. 2 exploits that I've heard of. One I don't consider an exploit at all, but I will discuss for sure. But the first thing is the exploit of players finding a way to artificially boost their ranking. I've seen players with 4,800 ranking. That's obviously not possible. Well, I guess it is possible, but it's obviously not very likely. And they have said that they will be going into some form of banning or suspension system for these players. I don't know if they've specifically said exactly what those players will be punished with, but they've definitely said that there will be bans, and they've said suspensions, not necessarily bans. So that's a good thing. I think they have actually been very lenient on the PvP community, especially when it comes to exploits. They haven't banned anyone that I can remember. Even botters and stuff, they only get suspended. I don't remember ever seeing anyone get banned. I've never heard of a speed hacker getting banned. I've just heard of suspensions. So they are pretty lenient in that aspect. But I think when there is such a hole in your system, and it is on Bioware's end, it's unfair to ban players for using that system, even though it is obviously an exploit, and it is obviously going against the spirit of the game. I think that a suspension really drives that point home and reset the rankings, then go on from there. Repeat offenders, then you could start talking about bans, but I haven't really seen much talk of that, so I don't think that's a major issue. The other thing that people are calling an exploit, but isn't really an exploit, is the fact that you can stealth out at the end of a match and just let the poison gas hopefully kill the other players. Works well for shadows who are really high, really tanky with a lot of health. They'll just stealth out, regen up to full, and then just avoid the players until the end of the match and the rest of the team dies, and you get a free win for that. Now that isn't an exploit, but it does open up a sort of a can of worms, and something that I think WoW has actually done pretty well to fix, in that in WoW, if you are stealth for too long, or if the match goes too long, I forget which it is, I think it's the match going too long. If the match goes too long, then a little buff pops up that allows you to see all stealth players. It pops everyone out of stealth. So I think that's something that should be implemented in the arenas. I think it's very strategic using stealth. Stealth is obviously one of the most important parts. It really helps the op out a lot and makes the OP op healer even more OP. Which is pretty funny when you think about it, that the op is OP. I don't know, that's just funny to me. I'm sure everyone else has already seen that, but that's enjoyable to me. But something like that should be added to the system. In each game, you know, just add after a certain amount of time, stealth is revealed, and that's that. So, not an exploit, but something that's annoying, and I understand why players are annoyed by it. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about here was class balance, and this has obviously been a hot topic since the game launched, and in every MMO, since every MMO has launched, there is talk about class balance, because it is impossible to achieve perfect balance in an MMO. The fact that things are different inherently means that they are imbalanced. You can't have such a deep and rich and differing system without leading to differences in power level. Now, there are several different ways you can avoid the obvious problems that we may be having, and I don't even know if we are having problems. If we look at the leaderboards right now, we will talk about the top 10 at this current time. We see a mercenary at the top. We see a mercenary, marauder, power tech, sorcerer, operative, power tech, marauder. Power tech. That's 10. Yes, that's 10. Okay, so what don't we see in there? We do not see anything. Do we have everyone? We do not see a shadow assassin. And that's it, I think. Oh, we don't see a sniper. A sniper assassin. Which is interesting. But I think what's more important than just looking at what the top 10 is seeing how it changes over time. And the problems that I've seen is that Marauder and Power Tech have definitely stayed in the top 10 for a long time and do control a large portion of the top 10. Even the totally broken Operative Healer is not dominating the top 10 like the Marauders and Power Techs that I've seen. So what I think is something that can be done to kind of fix a system like this, and not necessarily fix the system, but there's several different design philosophies that you can go into when you try and balance something that's so different. And one of them is the just complete non-homogenization. You can completely homogenize and make everyone the same, but that's not interesting. We want to keep different, and we want to keep everyone feeling unique. So you can completely unhomogenize or dehomogenize or whatever the word for it is, and make everything so completely different and radically out there that there is inherent balance in the imbalance. Everyone is doing stuff completely differently, and it's impossible to tell, what is the quote-unquote best. Now, the problem with that is it's extremely difficult to design something so different and so unique, so that's the reason you don't really see that very often. Another way you can go is kind of modification on that. And I think the easiest way to explain this is just with the simple rock, paper, scissors dynamic. And that's the rock, paper, scissors design of a metagame. And that's the big thing here. Whenever you have a ranked system, you have to think about not only the inherent power, but the metagame of something. And you say you can take a simple game of rock, paper, scissors. And rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, paper beats rock. If you haven't played rock, paper, scissors, or Rochambeau, or however you want to call it, the idea is that one beats the next, but is beaten by something else. So if we take it on its simplest sense, you would think everything has an equal chance of winning if you take a simple game of rock, paper, scissors. So you have three classes, and A beats C, C beats... No, A beats B, B beats C, and C beats A. You have three separate classes that one beats another. You have a good balanced system there, because when you go into a random group, you have a chance to meet up against A, B, or C. And you have a good balance there. Now, what happens when you have imbalance in that same system is you actually end up with a similar balance. When you say, let's take a weighted game of rock, paper, scissors. And if you want to read about this, I have a great Serlin article that I will link in the show notes about balance by rock, paper, scissors. Take an imbalanced game of rock, paper, scissors, where, say, if you win with rock, you get $10 for winning with rock. If you win with scissors, you get $3 for winning with scissors. And if you win with paper, you get $1 for winning with paper. Now, you would think everyone wants to go throw rock, because rock is clearly the best option. You win $10 for winning that way. But if everyone goes that way and you play paper, you will only win $1, but you'll win every time because you're playing paper. And now the truly maverick person out there will see, well, scissors loses to rock, which is the most popular choice, but everyone knows that rock is the most popular choice, so they're choosing paper, and they will choose scissors to beat the paper that people are using to counter the rock. So as long as you have this three-tiered system, and this differences and counters between different classes and different teams, then you can have a balanced and interesting metagame. Now, the problem I see with this is that certain classes don't seem to have a strong counter right now. And that's what you really need. When you have a two-tiered system, if you have rock and scissors, rock just wins every time. That's just how it is. You need that paper, you need that counter, even if the paper is weak to something else, or weak to a lot of other things. As long as there's that silver bullet out there, it keeps things interesting. Now, the easiest place to see this is if you've ever played Magic the Gathering at any competitive level. If you know Galactic, that's where my name comes from, is Magic the Gathering. You have a bunch of different decks out there, and decks are tuned to beat decks X or Y or Z, or they're kind of balanced between everything. And when you have lots of different things going on, you have a healthy metagame. And everyone feels like, oh, my deck has a chance, because if X shows up or Y shows up, or if I play really well, I have a chance to win. Maybe I avoid the deck that counters mine, and I win the tournament. When you have a rock and anti-rock metagame, that's when you really start to see problems, because everyone has to either play rock or everyone has to play anti-rock. There is no paper. There is no scissors there. So you end up being forced into two things, and that leaves the players who spend a lot of money on building a scissors deck out in the cold because there's no room for scissors. And this is especially bad for an MMO where players have spent a lot of time leveling up the character that they want to play. You have the unhealthy metagame that I think you have now. So what really I think needs to happen is we need to not see really nerfs to any certain classes, because I don't think any classes are particularly ridiculous. I mean, small nerfs here and there I think are always required to keep the game interesting and balanced, but I think if you do focus more on allowing different classes to counter other classes, you will end up with a healthier metagame. So, I know I've rambled on a lot in that topic, but I really like the idea of metagames, and I think games should be built on metagames. Allow players to play your game on another level beyond the confines of the game. Allow players to outthink their opponents and figure out, hey, this works really well against the power tech marauders and operatives. This is like the silver bullet that will kill the metagame, and I will be able to, leapfrog into the top of the leaderboards because I figured out what's the best way to counteract this. So that's really why I'm interested in this. I bet some of you are already sleeping and have logged off, so sorry about that, but we will be talking about space when we come back, so be happy about that. If you would like to discuss class balance in the chat room, I am going live right now, and I don't know why I'm saying this, because if you're listening to this, you are live with me. So, yeah. Anyway, we are going to play some music. I'm going to take a break and drink a little more water, because I'm a little parched from this rant. Speaking very quickly now, and I apologize for that. In the meantime, you can listen to the classic Led Zeppelin Immigrant Song, because when I think PvP, that is the only thing that comes to mind. Music is only available during the live broadcast of the show due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to join me for a live recording, be sure to follow @GT on Twitter for announcements of recording times and dates. I just realized that I again made the mistake of forgetting to play my ambient background music while I was recording, so I apologize for that. But now we will listen to Darth Malgus' theme as I discuss space! That's right, space in its truest and most awesome form is finally live for everyone, well, subscribers at least, to test. They did a live stream from the PTS last week, not last week, yesterday. They did a live stream from the PTS yesterday where a lot of players got to take a look, free-to-players and subscribers and non-players alike got to take a look at the game. So if you've wanted to see it, you have probably seen it, and if not, I'm sure there are tons of videos and pictures and all sorts of stuff already on the net. So what do I think about space? I think space is f***ing awesome. It is really just so f***ing awesome. There's no other way to say it. I love it. I think it's crazy fun. Anyone who liked X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, any other of the Star Wars combat games, the Battlefront games, if you've liked, even if you like Battlefield, I thought it was most similar to the jet combat in Battlefield games. That's what it felt like most to me, or at least most recently what it's felt like to me. So I think it's really awesome that we do have something like this coming, and kind of out of nowhere. Like, we didn't know the Super Secret Space Project was going on. We did know it's been going on for a long time. But all of a sudden, several of us got emails about getting invites to the closed beta, and this was in, let's see, let me check out my email, and I will tell you exactly when we got an invite to the closed beta. And now, what is probably most interesting and most encouraging to me was the fact that when we got into the closed beta, the first week the closed beta was going on, it was a shit show. It was just totally messed up. There were bugs all over, stuff was going crazy, players couldn't control their ships. Players were zoning in and not having a ship and just being stuck in the war zone. You couldn't, like, none of the UI stuff was set up. It was totally just balls out broken. And the speed at which it was improved was so incredibly... Let's see. Alright, here we go. The speed at which it was improved was so incredibly surprising to me. How fast they were able to not only improve the game, but listen to the feedback of the beta testers and really work things in there. When it started, I don't think they had plans on doing a free flight tutorial mode, but we kind of said how important that was, because for a new player it would be really difficult to get into, and they added that. There is now a free flight space mode, which is awesome. Things like bombers at one point were totally ridiculously broken, and I think they fixed that. I believe they fixed that. I hope they fixed that. But all sorts of things that we told them were, not good enough, too good, we'd like to see XYZ. They added it. It was awesome, and I really enjoyed being a part of the closed beta. Alright, I received the closed beta email on September 17th. So that would be, what, 2 months? Yeah, 2 months. In 2 months, the game came, leaps and bounds, and it was awesome to see. The current state of the game, if you haven't been paying attention, maybe you're listening to this and have no idea what's going on with space, there are 2 maps, both domination style, which is essentially civil war in space. You capture the nodes, and once you capture the nodes, you gain control of NPC turrets there that shoot at the enemies. The enemies have to shoot down these turrets and then capture the node back in order to start scoring points. It ticks up a score, one versus the other, and then whoever reaches 1,000 points first wins. So it's actually pretty fun. It's not my favorite game type. I wish there were more game types, but listening to Eric talk about the future of Galactic Starfighter in the live stream yesterday left me encouraged, not necessarily thinking that we'll be seeing new maps in the super near future, but I would guess we'll see at least another one next year, maybe 2 or 3. Maybe that's some of my conjecture, but I think that would be a good place for the Galactic Starfighter to be. And one of the big things that I've been talking about in the Galactic Starfighter, or in reference to the Galactic Starfighter, was how I thought it could lead players who never played an MMO to try it out. And I think one of the best decisions that they made was to allow players to play from level 1. You can play from straight level 1. You don't even need to complete the first conversation. You get into the game, you hit escape, and you can jump right into Galactic Starfighter, which is an amazing choice. You can get your friends. I know I will be getting my friends who have no intentions of playing SWTOR, who got really sick and burned out on SWTOR and didn't really like it. I will definitely be getting those players into Galactic Starfighter because of how much fun it is. And you do get to level up, so I think that will lead players into trying out the game in the meantime. So I think that's a good place for them to be, and I'm glad they made that decision. Another really cool choice is the fact, or another really cool thing that I found was the fact of how in-depth the customizations were. You have all different kinds of engines, all different kinds of rockets and missiles and defensive maneuvers and companions, and I was blown away when I first got in there because all of that stuff wasn't working, but I was in there for you to see, and I couldn't believe how in-depth the customization was, and I think it will have players playing for a long time, which is great. Also, Eric Musco said during the live stream yesterday that they are intensely against the pay-to-win aspects for Galactic Starfighter as well, which is one of the worries I had. I was pretty sure that they wouldn't do that, but seeing where they went with the spaceship parts, and there are some cartel coin aspects in there that are sort of... Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But they're selling mostly customizations, paint jobs, experience boosts, both Galactic Starfighter experience boosts, so you get more requisition, and on the ground based experience boosts. There will be legacy experience boosts as well in the system, so if you'd like to level up purely through Galactic Starfighter, I found that to be very useful. I personally leveled up in the beta a operative from level 1, I think got him to like level 10 or 12 throughout the course of all the beta weekends, so it's definitely a viable way to level up your character, which is cool, and I think that may drag those non-MMOers to try out the game proper because they're getting experience, and you need something to do while queues are popping. Another thing, the one thing that does worry me a little bit, but when Eric explained it yesterday, it did make sense, was the fact that you have two different requisitions. You have ship requisition and fleet requisition, and ship requisition is earned per ship, and then fleet requisition is like a global currency, and you can pay cartel coins to shift from one to the other. But the way he explained it yesterday was, say you do get sick of one ship and you really want to level up the other ship, it does kind of suck that you kind of lose all that XP that you earned on that ship, so you can transfer it over using cartel coins, which may not feel super great, but I would definitely hesitate to call it pay to win. Other cool things, what was I about to say before? I lost track of what I was going to say. I was also worried about the fact that with subscribers and players getting 2 months or over 2 months of early access to this game, I was really worried about how a newcomer or a free-to-player would experience the game against players that were fully geared up and kitted out with their ships, because in 3 months you can definitely level up a ship pretty much all the way. And he did assure me that the first 10 matches that you play in Galactic Starfighter will be defaulted to 8v8, which means that it's a little bit smaller, you can get a little bit more of your bearings straight and play a little bit of an easier game. And also after those 10 matches that you are only matched up against other new players, you will be matched by ranking first. So it's kind of like the rank system we have now, which is pretty cool. This might lead to longer queue times, which is another worry of mine. You know, you do have 12v12, and queues can take a little while to pop. In the closed beta when we were on there, queues were taking some time, and if they were then matching on rating as well, it would take even longer. So I think it's important for them to recognize that that could be a problem, and I don't know if they'll be able to continue. I don't know why the background music isn't looping. I'm telling it to loop. Anyway, I think that could be a problem going forward, and I hope it's something that they're quick to address if it does end up being a problem. So those are the things that I do see as possible sore spots for the system, but overwhelmingly I am incredibly impressed by what they've been able to do in this game with the resources that they have, with the design team that they have, with the engine that they have. The things they've done with this is just incredible, and I absolutely love it, and I can't wait till it goes live so I can shoot down all those goddamn imps on the other side. And there is friendly versus friendly too, which could help a little bit with the queuing problems, but who knows. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the Galactic Starfighter. Give it a try. If you haven't already subscribed or got your friends to subscribe for some early access, go definitely get them in there. For $15 for a month subscription, or whatever it is, $17 for a month subscription, they will definitely be getting their money's worth in Galactic Starfighter. And free-to-players are not limited in the number of Galactic Starfighter matches that they can play. So they can play full free-to-play, and all they'll be doing is losing out on a little bit of the ship requisition, which is the experience that you get for ships. So I'm incredibly excited and so happy that this is in-game. The Super Secret Space Project is finally here, and I think the final thing to realize with this is they had a dedicated team working solely on Galactic Starfighter for a long time. They've been working on it, I believe they said at the San Francisco Cantina, since last August. So for like a year and a half, they have had a dedicated team working on Galactic Starfighter and Galactic Starfighter only. Imagine what they can do in other parts of the game now that Galactic Starfighter is finally out there and done. They can allocate those resources in other spots, which is exciting. They can continue to improve PvE, PvP, Galactic Starfighter, the leveling game, everything. They have more currency now because they've worked this system in so well. And a lot of people are demanding, or are caught up with this idea of space PvE, and they really want to see space PvE. But as I've said before in past podcasts, that I don't think that this breaks down on a strictly PvP and PvP level. If I was to say that, you know, a pod racing minigame was PvP because we were going against other players, or a sabacc minigame was PvP because we were going against other players, that would just sound ridiculous. And I think it's ridiculous to call this just PvP in the strictest PvP sense. PvEers will like this. Your friends that don't like doing any endgame stuff will like this. It's so different. It's basically its own game, which is so exciting. The lack of maps is the only thing that holds it back in this aspect. There are only 2 maps, but the 2 maps are well done. The one game type is interesting, fun, and it's something that could be expanded on going forward. So I think this is a great thing for the game. I can't wait to see it go live and try it out. That's pretty much all I have to say on that. So going forward, after the break, we will be discussing the Wall of Crazy topic, which hopefully someone in the chat will be able to suggest a crazy topic for me. And since we've been talking about space, there is only one song that I could think of that would go very well right here, and that is David Bowie's Space Oddity. And now for the Wall of Crazy.
What? That's impossible even for a computer. It's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T16 back home. They're not much bigger than 2 meters.
My Wall of Crazy topic this week comes from Atowas, the Ato guy, from Ato Man, and he suggests Valor ranked 100 gear sets, and that is something that's very interesting, and I do think that is something they could look into. I do agree that Valor rank 100 does feel a little underwhelming. You just get a title, the Elite Warlord, I think is Valor rank 100. I think it's Elite Warlord. But they could definitely do more things to incentivize Valor rank 100, and I think they could do more things to incentivize Legacy 50, or do more things to incentivize all sorts of things like that. Any of those you've played for a long time achievements, like getting all of the achievements, or getting to Valor rank 100, or getting to Legacy 50, should be highly incentivized, because that means that you've played the game for a long time, and if you've played the game for a long time, you've probably paid a lot of money to BioWare. So anything that they give to incentivize these things is much appreciated. I think that he suggests that they have special gear sets that you can purchase that are specifically for Valor rank 100 people. I'm fine with that. I think that's cool. Make it really cool looking. Make it look like the Nightmare stuff with special effects, and make it shiny and different and cool. And do something like that for Legacy. Add special Legacy level 50 gear, or Legacy level 50 companion customizations, or Legacy level 50 other cool cosmetic thing, pets and titles and mounts and lions and tigers and bears and cats and dogs living together. They should do all these things and all of the things. Any little thing that you can give to the players that have supported your game the most and the longest, I think is a very good idea, especially for a free-to-play game. Free-to-play is built on customer satisfaction. If you do a customer right, they will continue to pay. And if you do a customer wrong, they'll just go somewhere else because they haven't invested a ton of money into the game. And even if they have, if you do them so wrong that they want to leave, they're definitely not going to come back because they'll have that bad taste left in their mouth. And I think that's something that WoW has kind of built a large reputation on, is the fact that they did do customers well for so long. They were strictly, pay your $15 a month and you'll get frequent content updates, you'll get frequent stuff added in-game, different mounts and titles, all achievable in-game. And that's something that I think SWTOR should look onto and say, yeah, if we really make the player and the subscriber and the frequent payer really feel appreciated, they're going to be more likely to pay more in the long run. And that's something that I think every business and game and everything in the world should work off of, the idea that, you do someone right and they'll remember it forever, and you do something wrong, they'll remember that too. So thank you very much, Ato Man. Thank you for your suggestion. And that'll about do it for today's live episode of Recording Live and in living color. As always, if you'd like to contact me, you can send your questions, comments, and concerns to galactic.crr@gmail.com, or you can tweet them to @gteague on Twitter. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes to get your weekly podcast updates. If you're thinking of resubscribing, or you're new to the game, I provided my refer a friend link in the show notes, so if you'd like a little added instead to come back, feel free to use it. You can also check out my new website, galacticgaming.com, where I post my podcasts, all my YouTube updates, my boss guides, all that sort of stuff. So check out galacticgaming.com. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Unnamed SWTOR. I can't even say my own name right now. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast. This is JD, signing out.